Hey guys, Frog Defrauder here, and originally I was going to review this plane later down the line, but a lot of you guys requested this one, and I also did just do the J11B, so I thought I might as well cover it now. I'm gonna be running through the characteristics pretty quickly since it's very similar to the J11B apart from some key areas. Flight model, improved engines over the base Su-27 improve its energy retention and speed, very respectable in dogfights, jousts, getting into position and altitude. Obviously not quite as good as the Super Giga Cracked dogfighters, but still can hold its own against lesser dogfighters. The AOA button on this plane is actually useful since if you find yourself in a bad spot in a dogfight, you have the last ditch option to Cobra to swing your nose around for an R-73 shot. Overall very stable, very comfortable to fly around. Radar, similarly clunky to the old Su-27 radar with its 3-segmented horizontal chunks, not tracking vertically in TWS, limited to 60 degrees horizontally, but this one does at least show you the missile position and state, so that's at least helpful. TWS head-on is the most consistent at picking up and tracking targets. Non-TWS head-on takes a few scans for it to actually see something, so it's not very good. Also keep in mind that you only have 2 data link channels unlike the 6 on the J11B, so if you sling off more than 2 missiles in TWS mode from outside of pitbull range, then you won't be able to data link them. You also get an IRST, which is very useful on this plane when paired with R27ETs or even the R73s if you launch them from enough of a distance, or if you just want to track somebody without pinging their RWR. The MSL Kit is the best you can have at 13.7. 8 of the second best turning Fox 3s just behind the Mikas. If you want, you can switch them all out for R27ERs or 2 out for R27ETs. On top of that, you get 4 R73s, which are fun to use for those high off foresight shots in a dogfight, but also work as just regular IR missiles, since their range is still okay and have gate with IRCCM. It's a very versatile missile kit where you can switch out more ETs and ERs if you prefer that kind of playstyle. I usually tend to bring all R77s or maybe 1 extra ER just to knock out somebody who's running away. The RWR is good with precise direction, 5 to 50 kilometer ranging, target ID, sorta just what you'd expect from this VR. You guys did point out that the Su-27SM's RWR is limited in the fact that it only detects missiles 30 degrees above and below the aircraft's plane, while most other RWRs do 45 above and below, making the RWR dead zones above and below the plane much larger. Personally, I didn't really notice this, but I suppose it is a downside still. Countermeasures, 96 large caliber. The large caliber is helpful for flaring gate with IRCCM missiles and chaffing Fox 3s from longer distance away. You don't need to use nearly as much as you would if you were just using standard caliber. Personally, I think the Su-27SM is the best 13.7 in the game. J11B is definitely more ergonomic, easier to use, and requires less fiddling around, but having played both now, I think I'd definitely say that the Su-27SM is still more consistent in ARB despite all of the J11B's advantages. The versatile missile kit means that you have a response to any situation. ERs and ETs for long range, R77s for medium range jousts, R73s for very close range. And the possibility of bringing 8 very solid Fox 3s on top of 4 very solid IR missiles gives you a lot more flexibility to send out missiles that might have a lower chance of hitting for defensive purposes or just to see if they find their mark, while players with fewer missiles have to ration and wait for better situations to use those missiles in, which can lead to missing out on potential kills and putting yourself at more risk than necessary to try and secure an efficient kill. You do still have to be careful to launch on good targets, but you have a lot more room for error purely from quantity, which is what makes this plane feel more consistent. The radar, of course, is the main limiting factor on this plane, but considering how funky mechanical radars have been these days, I didn't actually have too bad of a time with this one. It's definitely harder to use since the lack of target snapping means you have to micromanage where you point the radar, and you also have to swap between TWS head-on and non-head-on, but while in TWS head-on, I didn't actually have too many problems picking up enemies, or at least not by that much more than when I was playing something like the F-15 or J11B. Without an ASA radar, you never really will be fully situationally aware anyways, so I don't think the clunkiness bothered me too much. And I actually like this radar a lot more than the radar on the Mirage 2000, just because the radar on the Mirage 2000 scans so slowly and has a tiny sliver of a scan zone that you're basically running blind the whole match, even if it does have target snapping. The good flight model and the tight turning R77s also give you a way to respond when you accidentally wander into enemies, if your radar wasn't able to pick people up. Since once you see their dot, you can lock them with HMD, fire a missile while already starting the notch, and the R77 will usually be able to pull in. Personally, my biggest issue was the lack of target snapping. I had a lot of instances where I wanted to keep track of a specific target flying low to the deck while I'm high up, so I would have to constantly manage the vertical angle of the radar to follow them, often unsuccessfully. I highly recommend you using radar elevation stabilization when you're flying this plane, which I usually don't use on other planes since I like to quickly swing my nose around to look for targets sometimes instead of fiddling around with my radar trying to get the direction exactly right. But on this plane you kinda need it since once you find a target, you want it to maintain the same scan area instead of following your nose since it's not going to track it. And the 60-degree horizontal limits are also pretty annoying. I would like to be able to keep track of enemies while being closer to the notch to discourage enemies from firing at me. You're also not able to take nearly as much advantage of the high off-boresight launches with the R-77s when your radar doesn't let you lock people farther off. So that's about everything that I have to say about the plane itself. It's just a very easy plane to do well in. It's versatile, adaptable, works well in many situations, and has a lot of room for error and bad shots, and a potentially high skill ceiling if you can get each of your missiles to hit. The Matchmaker also seems very favorable to this plane. 90% of your matches will be full or partial down tiers due to the premium spam at 12.7 to 13.3. So many F-18C earlies, F-2A ADTWs, Su-30MKKs, and MK2s. A lot of them very inexperienced, possibly even just base bombing. It's a complete feeding frenzy. It's very easy to do well, and I've been able to get 5-kill matches fairly regularly, even when playing with my brain off, which is not something I can say about other planes at this BR. This is also precisely why I find this BR so boring when it used to be one of my favorites. There were a lot of planes at this battle rating that did specific things well, but also had their fair share of limitations, so it felt like there was some degree of counterplay, one way or another. Even if some planes were stronger than others, all the planes sort of still at least felt somewhat workable. And while a lot of these premiums are very strong and probably require some degree of rebalancing, the main issue for when you're playing the Su-27SM isn't that these planes are too strong or that this BR is poorly balanced, even though it is, but because there are so many inexperienced players at this BR now, the games do not last long, the enemies die very quickly, you do not get any interesting engagements, and so the gameplay loop gets very stale. Premium players have been a consistent corrupting force that procedurally rot any BR wherever they're marketed as good at grinding or just good in general, and so it's always the case that the highest BR premiums that have the most grind potential manage to pollute their way up to just below top tier as Gaijin continues to introduce them. If your goal is just consistent grinding and getting decent matches of 3 to 5 kills, then the Su-27SM will do the job for you very easily, as will probably most other 13.7s right now thanks to the favorable Matchmaker. You just play normally like you would with any other 13.7, flying high left, firing on enemies once close enough, notching when you need to, rinse and repeat. You don't have to worry nearly as much about running out of missiles as you would in any other 13.7, just because you have so many, and if you've been making good launches, then you probably won't run out before the end of the match. But if your goal is to try and maximize the potential of a plane, this environment is not very good for that. Enemies die before you get to them, enemies die in incredibly stupid trades and head-ons, enemies crash into the ground at an alarming rate. I played like 12 matches and I have a win rate of like 75%, which is kind of absurd. I basically never got any matches where I had a chance to carry. I doubt it's because of my own personal contribution. Even in matches where I didn't get any kills because everyone died before my missiles got to them, we seemed to win, and I didn't have nearly this high of a win rate when playing the J-11B. I'm guessing it's because all of the Russian planes at 12.7 to 13.7 are either very strong or just not played at all. MiG-29 and Yak-141 are very rarely seen, and so it's mostly Su-33s, Su-30MK2s, and both of them are arguably too strong for their BRs. Meanwhile, other nations have a lot of premiums that are also strong but not nearly as strong in an up tier like the F-18C early and the F-2A ADTW. At a certain point I stopped caring about dying to try and go past 5 kills by playing more risky and aggressive, but it is just not working out very well. I've tried flanking right, going low, full sending it straight down mid, but I cannot for the life of me seem to get a match past 5 kills. Maybe these strategies that I'm using take more practice to pull off, but the relatively weak raider is not good at giving me enough situational awareness to best take advantage of these higher risk positions. And because it's so hard to know how risky a position will be, when I do full send it, it's usually just a gamble of who spots who first, assuming I don't get double teamed, and so I end up just dying a lot in stupid ways. So from after having tried those different options, the best way to try and get a high frag game seems to be just to play the way that I normally did and hope that my team dies quickly while the enemy team manages to survive. Then hoping that you don't choke in the off chance that you do actually manage to get into a carry potential situation. I don't know, maybe it's just a skill issue, I'm sure you'll let me know if that's the case, but let's just get into the gameplay. Also, a quick note about using the R27ER. I know some of you guys like to use it at the start of the match and surprise people with the data link and relock, but I found this to be a rather inconsistent use of the missile. Maybe I'm just not used to the timing, but while it does work sometimes, the timing can get awkward if the enemy launches a Falcor at you. You can try to delay the time at which the Falcors get to you by F-poling early, flying off to the side and lowering your speed after launching your ER, but that also puts you in a worse position after having gotten the kill, since you'll now be farther to the side and behind your team and in a worse position to get more kills. And a note about the R-73s, people just sort of characterize them as a gimmick thrust vectoring missile that's only useful in close range, but they're not limited to just that. I think they have a similar range and speed to the AIM-9Ms, so they can go a fair distance if you give them enough speed, and can work pretty well with the IRST if the enemy doesn't see you coming. Okay, let's get into the matches. I'm just looking for a good target right now. I did manage to get an ER kill at the start of the match, but I guess I got lucky because it looked like the Phoenixes were coming after me, but they weren't pinging my RWR, so perhaps he didn't target me directly. This isn't in a perfect spot, but the Su-30 is sort of generally heading towards me and is pretty close right now, so hopefully he won't be able to notch that. There's definitely somebody in front of me, but I'm not really sure. I thought it was potentially somebody that was heading away from me, so I tried to switch into TWS regular mode. But it was somebody that's below me, so I quickly launch a missile downwards. Hopefully it'll find him. Okay, there we go. And so, for now I have 4 kills, and both teams are completely dead. I feel like I haven't really gotten that much done, but this is how most matches seem to go these days. Though luckily there is one enemy left somewhere, so maybe I'll get a chance to do an interesting 1v1 with them. They hadn't done anything until just now where they seem to have bombed a base, so I'm trying to use my TWS radar to see where they are, but I just end up picking up these AIs, and I can't seem to find him. And as it turns out, it looks like he's actually behind me. That's really close. That is not what I want to see. He's been able to sneak up from very close behind me, so I'm cutting throttle, I'm going into the notch. It's probably an AIM-7P that he's launching, so I have to be extra careful to continue to stay in the notch, otherwise he's going to be able to relock. So unfortunately, I'm stuck here in the notch. He's going to be able to start this dogfight on my 6, if he doesn't just manage to kill me outright in this first pass. Raising throttle back up again. And he's probably coming in with a fair bit of speed, so even if I do try a raid fight here, which I would win eventually, he's going to be able to cash in all of that energy that he currently has for one good turn and get on my 6 very easily, just like that. So maybe I should have just reversed the circle when he first came in for the fight. Okay, I'm very low on speed right now, but so is he, so reversing the circle here is also not a great idea. This situation isn't looking great, so I decide to use the AOA button and yaw my plane as much as I can to try and stay inside of his circle, while keeping my nose towards him. First R-73 is out. That did not hit him. Let's try another. Yeah, that one's not gonna hit. But I am able to stay inside of his circle right now. I've turned the AOA button off, since if I do stay stalled, then there's a good chance he'd be able to shoot me, but he's going downwards now, so I'm going to turn it back on, throw my nose back towards him, launch another one off, and it looks like he noticed too late. That was a pretty interesting fight. Definitely not very well executed on my end, but he did manage to make more mistakes than I did, so it seems that luckily this time I came out on top. Okay, next match, I've notched the first few Falcors, and there are a lot of enemies down low that are looking like easy targets, so I'm trying to sift through them, but it's kind of annoying managing how far down to point my radar, since there's no snapping, and so you have to micro-adjust it. So I feel like I missed out on quite a few kills there. It did look like there were a lot of enemies down there that I could have fired on. I'm waiting to get into a better position for this next launch. There we go. One of those missiles was a hit, unfortunately. I think that F-14 fired on me, but it's not tracking. My radar seems to have found somebody else as well, so I'm just gonna fire it off. Looks like they're coming straight towards me anyways, so that should be a good launch. There's also an F-16 somewhere that's firing on me. Oh, it must have been the guy that I launched on. Missiles coming from directly below me, so the easiest way to get into a notch is to go vertical. Okay, that was pretty straightforward. This is what I mean when I say that I don't feel like the 30-degree elevation and depression limit on the RWR is that much of an issue. Most of the time I'm rolling my plane around anyways, so most of the time I am usually able to detect it. And even if it's not, then if it's coming from directly above or below me, then I should usually be able to see the missile diamond, since it's unlikely that they're coming from very far up or very far down. There was some people at high altitude, so I want to check to make sure that there's nobody up here left. Oh, there's somebody. Mechanical radar hasn't determined its direction yet. Oh, okay, so they're flying off to the side. This would be a pretty bad launch, so I'm gonna wait until either they turn towards me or maybe if I can get a little bit farther in front of them, so that hopefully I can arc the missile around their front. Though it is a little difficult to arc missiles the way you want them to, unless you're using missiles that turn poorly, so the R-77s aren't really good at arcing the missiles in the direction that you want them to come at from. I'm gonna hardlock them, maybe notify them of my position, so that maybe they'll try and look for me. 12 kilometers is a decent range to launch from, but it also does look like they're going pretty slow, so they might be able to notch it. But it also doesn't look like they're making any attempt to try to notch it, so... Okay, there we go. That's another easy kill. Let's see who else I can find. There are quite a few enemies spotted down low, so maybe I can help some of my friendlies out. They did just kill my friendlies, so they might have good time to react here. But at least I won't accidentally kill a teammate. I was keeping hardlock, maybe trying to data link it, and it looks like I might be able to data link it if he continues to turn away. I'm not sure if that managed to data link, but I'm gonna go for this F-18 first. Hopefully I can launch an IR missile at him, and he won't notice. It did look like it was in range. It's a little hard to tell because of the snowy ground, but I do think that he managed to flare it. Okay, so this isn't a great spot to be in. That Su-30 is now launching missiles at me from the left. It seems like this is the one instance in which my teammates actually decided to not survive, so this could potentially be a good opportunity to carry, but this is probably not a great spot to be in to try and pull that off. Okay, so the Su-30 has passed. I'm gonna try and send a R-77 at this guy. Then I gotta notch his missile. Hopefully if I crank hard enough, then it won't get to me before he dies. And at this point I make the mistake of turning into the Su-30 and firing an R-73 at him instead of the R-77. Yeah, in hindsight that was a pretty massive mistake. This could have been a good match, but yeah, I ended up choking at the end there. Better luck next time, I guess? Unfortunately after that match I wasn't able to get a single match where my team collapsed so I could try to carry. But I mean, aces in this plane are a dime a dozen, so I still have a few more of those to show. I was pushing a little aggressively into the middle of the head-on. Sometimes if an enemy gets within 20 kilometers without firing at me, then I do send one off just to see if it actually hits. But I wasn't quite able to get as close as I wanted to, so I'm just going to notch and then check back in. There do seem to be some people higher up in the back. If they don't notice me, then I might have a good opportunity to fire on them. Though the radar is being a little temperamental right now, it's not picking up what I wanted to pick up. It is a little difficult to tell whether something that you're TWS locking is a target or not, since it takes some time for it to update the direction that it's flying, and if the target is flying in a very straight path, then it might just be some glide bombs or something. But this target looks like it's turning, so it's definitely an enemy. It's either a MiG-29 or some flanker, based off of the RWR ping. I'm gonna try and wait as long as possible to try and get as close as I can to launch this off. Okay, 9 kilometers is probably fine. I'm coming in with a lot of speed as well, so he's counterfired. I'm gonna have to notch here, lower throttle to try and tighten my turn. Okay, fairly quick and efficient kill right there. Let's see who else there is to go after right now. I am going rather slow after that notch though, after I drop throttle, so I'm not in the best position to fire out, but there is a Su-30 up there that is getting pretty close, and I think he's hard-locked me with an ER, so I am going to counterfire. I'm pretty slow already, so I can probably be pretty lazy with this notch. Okay, I guess he committed a little too hard with that ER shot. Let's see who else we can go after. There are a lot of enemies that are spotted right now, so a lot of potential targets if I can get into the right position. I do want to be in a front aspect position so that my missiles have the lowest chance of getting notched. There is a small group of enemies here on the right as well, so I'm gonna check them out first. There is also somebody high up, but he's flying away, not in a great aspect right now. Hopefully this Gripen is going to turn back and I can get a shot on him. He might die here in this joust though. Oh, no, it looks like he survived. He's probably going to notice the Su-30 and turn back, so at that point I'm going to fire an R-77. There is a chance he notches it or multipaths it, but I'm going to see if I can launch an ER at this guy that's flying away. Or, well, actually he's turning in for a notch, so I might be able to wait for a better shot. Okay, nice, I got the Gripen. He is turning front aspect though, so I am thinking about changing to an R-77. But it looks like he is just noticing my hard lock and he's just going to stay in the notch. I'll fire one off just to distract him, but it's probably not going to hit. Unless for some reason he decides to turn back in or something. I don't know why he would do that. Su-34 on my 6, he's probably launched an R-77 at me. So I'm going to turn back down for a notch. He's probably not high up. I'm guessing he's going to be somewhere lower than me, so I'm going to check where he's launching missiles from. And hopefully I'll be able to counterfire on him and get one more kill. I do still have plenty of R-77s left. Trying to spot him visually before I have to try and radar lock him, because using the radar itself isn't that reliable. Okay, I've spotted him. He is at my altitude, so I'm gonna turn in for a lock. Oop, that's the wrong target. That's the missile. I'm gonna lock him now, fire the missile off. Hopefully he won't be able to notch that, and I should be able to stay in the notch here. These R-77s are really nice for these high off-bore side shots. I just wish I could go even farther side aspect by having 70-degree limits on the radar instead of 60. Next match is an Uptier. I didn't really talk about it too much since this Matchmaker is incredibly rare. But as long as you play carefully and defensively, you do have the missile kit to stay in the fight for a really long time and sustain consistent amounts of pressure. So it's one of the more up-tier proof planes. I launched a missile at the start, but it probably wasn't going to hit. Many more people know how to notch from distance at this BR. There is a Rafale somewhere in front of me, so I launched a missile at him, but he ends up dying to a friendly first, which is going to be very common at this BR since the R-77's shorter range does start to become noticeable once enemies get ASA radars, meaning that they can data link and launch from much longer and still manage to get pretty decent consistent kills. So for now, I'm just going to save my missiles, go defensive whenever somebody fires, turn back in, and see if I can try and get in range of somebody that I can actually kill. There is somebody over here, he is in a notch, and firing at somebody else. They're probably not expecting me to come from this direction, though I do have a hard lock on them, so they do know that I'm coming and that I'm pretty close. It looks like they're turning towards me, so I'm going to fire an R-77 off, see if they can actually notch that. I'm going to hold hard lock just in case I might be able to data link it here, and it actually does look like it's data linked. He didn't stay in the notch nearly long enough for it to decoy my radar. So that's a kill on an F-15C, though I can't really say for sure whether it's a Golden Eagle. Checking the leaderboard, there are still 5 enemies left, but I don't really know where they are. I would expect them to be closer to the middle of the map. I thought I was locking something in front of me there, but I think it might just be a dead missile or something. There is a guy inside the canyon right now. I might be able to launch a missile at him, as was that F-16 that's just launched on me. Most efficient path to notch is a little upwards here since he's coming from below. Lowering throttle to tighten my turn a little bit, and this shouldn't be too difficult. Okay, there we go. Let's throttle back up and... oh, the F-16 crashed. I don't know if I should count that one. Can't really tell if he killed himself trying to dodge my missile, and I'm too lazy to go check in the replay mode, so... Anyways, there's only one enemy left. He hasn't done anything this entire match, so we were meandering around his airfield to see if he'd show his face. Friendly Eurofighter goes down. It turns out it was a Rafale. That's pretty scary, and very conveniently he shows up directly above me, so... I'm gonna try and pitch up, launch a missile at him. R-77 out. I might not get to him, so I'm gonna launch an ER as well, just as soon as I get control back. There we go. Hopefully he's going to at least attempt to turn back and fight, because this is like 15 minutes into the match, and he's basically done nothing until now. Okay, so he is turning in for the notch. I don't know if that's going to get him. Okay, the ER actually got him. I'm glad this match didn't have to drag on any longer. Not the most interesting match, but goes to show that this plane can work in an up tier. Now, at this point, I've gotten kind of bored of playing the same playstyle over and over again and getting generally mediocre games, so I'm just full sending it straight down the middle here right now, just to see what would happen. I've done this a few times before and it just got me killed, but I was wondering if I could find an opening or a good angle to come in at, then maybe I could sling off a bunch of missiles on people that are low, and then potentially get a lot of kills out of it. Unfortunately, the radar is showing that quite a few of these missiles have gone into IOG, and I'm not able to data link them because the radar is not great, so I don't think many of these are actually going to hit. Okay, that is one. Let's see if I can get any more. This was also not a great launch angle since the target is going into sort of a side aspect. Though the radar is indicating that it is still tracking something. Oh, okay, so 2 more kills. That's 3. Not bad, not bad. Now to look and see if I can find anybody else. I am down to 2 R-77s though, so I do have to be a little careful with these next shots so that I don't waste them. There is somebody pretty high up at altitude that you're contrailing. And it looks like my radar's picked up somebody that's kind of in front of me but flying off to the side, so the radar is having a little difficulty trying to figure out where they're going, but it does figure out it eventually. 22 clicks out, they might turn back in, so that could give me an opportunity to shoot at them. I was wondering if this soft-locked target was a potential enemy, but I think their movement is a little too slow, so I don't think that's actually an enemy. There are some people down low that are in a pretty decent aspect, so I'm thinking I might launch on that guy. Somebody else but in a poor aspect, so I don't launch on the other guy. I want to try and find the person that was high up here with me. Since that was the guy that I was trying to go for initially, there does seem to be some sort of a trail higher above the clouds right now, so maybe they're up there. Missile diamond from behind me? That's a little concerning. Oh, there is somebody up here. I don't think this was the person that I was trying to go after initially, but I'm going to send an ER after them because they are going rear aspect. It should manage to get to them since they're not trying to notch or turn. And this is pretty close. Yep, there we go. There's an F-18 down low. I could try to go after him, but my friendly does kill him before I'm able to get there. I tried the strategy a few more times, but it wasn't very consistent, so I decided against using it anymore. One last match where I finally was actually able to break 5 kills. This time I didn't really do anything that much differently. In fact, I wasted quite a few missiles, but, well, you'll see. I was going pretty aggressive in the head-on at the start, and there was an enemy that got within 20 kilometers, so I was going to try and fire a missile at them. Judging by their missile trails, it looks like it's an F-14 of some sort, so it's going to be much more likely that this one hits since his RWR is poor. Plus, he's probably trying to data link in his Falcors, so there's a good chance this one hits. Or not, I guess. That's unfortunate. I do kind of want to kill him, because the F-14 is a pretty easy target with a poor RWR, so I'm going to try and shoot a missile at him again. Hopefully this one connects. There's an F-16 that is scanning me from somewhere. I do want to be a little careful of that, because it looks like they are getting kind of close on the RWR, but I can't really tell where exactly they are. I see some missile trails in front of me. Okay, that's probably him. Fire missile off. And I don't think he's locked me, so I'm just gonna try and keep the lock on. Maintain data link in case he tries to notch, though he is above me, so there is a possibility that the data link doesn't work at all. But it did get him regardless, so that's good. Let's see who else I can find on my radar to try and kill. Not that many people spotted by my friendlies as of right now. Looking at the radar, there seems to be quite a lot of people ahead of me, so this could be a good opportunity to ripple off my missiles at each one of them. Gonna wait until I'm within at least 20 kilometers. Somebody's fired a missile at me, so they do know that I'm here. I'm gonna wait a little bit to try and give the missiles the best chance possible to get to the enemies. Okay, that's 3 missiles out. Going into the notch. I'm not sure if I waited a little too long, but hopefully I can notch them. Ooh, okay, I could hear the missile fly by. Let's see how many kills I get here. It looks like I didn't get any at all. That is unfortunate. I was able to spot the dot of the F-16, so I'm going to launch a missile at him and then go back right into the notch. It looked like he was full committing, so hopefully this one finds its mark at least this time. He is notching pretty aggressively though. Yeah, that one probably won't get to him. But here's another ER for him, and this one should get to him. He did manage to launch another missile off, so I'm going to turn in for a notch. Not really sure what that was. It didn't seem to be going for me, so maybe it was locking the missile or something. Okay, so I haven't been very efficient with my missiles this match, but there's still quite a few enemies left, so I might be able to make this work. There's another F-16 off to my left on the RWR, plus 2 enemies that just got done finishing off my friendlies. I'm gonna try and go for an R-73 shot on this F-2A. Hopefully it'll get to him. I don't think he noticed me at all. The F-16 has launched an AMRAAM at me, so I may have to notch here. Friendly did just take out an F-16C, so maybe that was the guy that just tried to fire at me. It looks like I'm actually just trying to out-energy the missile, which might be successful. It's a little hard to tell. I am going fairly fast right now, so maybe if I pitch up right now, the missile won't have enough energy to try and follow me up. It does show pretty close on the RWR though. Oh, okay, it was a vegan from behind. Friendly Su-33 is engaging it. If it comes down to a dogfight, I'm not sure which of the two is going to win. The Su-33 does have the Cobra button, but it also has a horrible flight model for dogfighting and energy retention, so there's a chance that the vegan might come out on top. So I'm gonna try and get close, see if I can launch a missile off. Hopefully on the vegan and not the friendly. That AMRAAM is still tracking me. Got an IRST lock, hopefully he's not going to notice me. R-73 out. Nice, okay, he's down. Now I think the last enemy is an F2. I did see an RWR ping from a bit of a distance away, so I'm gonna try and get back into TWS mode to try and find him. Is it that guy? Their direction indicator shows that they're not really changing directions, so there is a possibility that this is just a dead missile from a long time ago. Yeah, it doesn't seem like an actual target. I'm not really sure where the F2 is. Oh, yeah, the F2 is definitely a lot closer and probably somewhere a little bit farther off to the left. Hopefully TWS is able to find it at a certain point. Okay, there he is. He has launched a Sparrow at me, so I'm going to turn for the notch. I do have some time right now since it's going to take a while for it to get to me, but I do want to be the first to get there so that I can potentially get the kill. Maybe I could have gone for the barrel roll there, but I was also going pretty fast, so I didn't want to risk compressing and not being able to turn in time. That's one Sparrow down. It does look like he's coming towards me, so I do have to be careful in case he launches an AAM-3. I'm popping flares as well. He hasn't launched again yet, so maybe I can get an R-73 off. Oh, never mind, he launched one at me. So this was a bad launch, but it at least managed to decoy the AAM-3, which I'm not confident in flaring, so that could have just saved my life right there. I could maybe get a rear aspect R-73 shot right now. This could be good. It is tracking, but it's gone for flares. Right now it is a 3v1, so I do want to try and air brake, maybe stay on his 6, and hope that my friendlies are able to distract him long enough that I can get on his 6 and gun him down. Su-33 is going in for a head-on. He misses his missile. Misses his gun. I should be able to get a good deflection shot right now. Whew, okay, there we go. Again, I missed a lot of my missiles. I probably could have been a bit more efficient with them. I was still able to get a 6-kill match, but with how these matches have been so far, I think this is probably where I want to call it. I don't really feel like spending any more time trying to fish for matches where my team specifically does poorly, just so that I can try and get a bigger number. So that'll be all for now. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye!